Welcome back to Basement Integrity Podcast by IcyReno. Great to have you tuning in again. Today, we're diving deep into something really vital for your home's foundation, maybe something that doesn't get talked about enough, the sectional closing in underpinning. Now, if you caught our last deep dive on protecting your basement starts with the right contractor, you'll know getting those basics right is, well, fundamental.
Absolutely.
And today really builds right on that. We're peeling back the layers on how we ensure safer foundations through sectional underpinning in Toronto. Specifically, that final step. For so many of us here in Toronto, maybe you're in Leslieville or East York, High Park even, these charming older neighborhoods.
Lots of history there.
Exactly. And that history often means older foundations. Sometimes they need a bit more than just a patch-up.
Right. It's not just about looks or even just renovation. We're talking core structural reinforcement here, keeping those beautiful old homes standing strong.
So what exactly are we getting into today then?
What we're really unpacking is like the final puzzle piece, the part that makes your home's foundation truly solid. It's more than just another concrete core. It's the moment everything locks together for safety, for the structure, long term.
Okay.
By the end of this, you'll get exactly what the step is, why it's so critical, why you just can't skip it, especially for foundation safety right here in Toronto. It's kind of the unsung hero of the whole underpinning process. And we want to shine a light on why it matters so much.
Okay, let's unpack that. We hear underpinning in sections a lot. Working in stages. Makes sense. But what specifically is this sectional closing? How is it different from, the other sections we work on?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It gets easily confused. So during an underpinning job, we work very carefully section by section. We'll excavate under a part of the foundation wall, pour a new, wider footing, that concrete base, and let it start to cure, get strong.
Right, you can't dig out the whole thing at once.
Exactly. That would be, well, disastrous for the house. So because we work in sequence, there's always one last gap left in each run of underpinning we complete. This space, it cannot be touched until all the new concrete footing sections next to it are properly set and have gained significant strength.
Ah, okay. So it's a deliberately left open for a time.
Precisely. That very last space, that gap we leave, that's the sectional closing. It's the point where temporary supports are removed and the whole new section becomes one permanently unified structure.
So it's literally the final connection point in that sequence.
That's it.
But how does just one gap, closing that one spot, how does that impact the whole foundation, the whole house, really? Why is this gap the crucial one?
Well, this is where the whole system really integrates. This final step links all the other underpinning sections together. It transforms them from strong individual pieces into one single, continuous, super strong foundation element.
Okay, makes sense.
Without it, you literally have a break, a discontinuity in the structure. Imagine a strong chain, but with one link missing.
The whole chain fails.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how strong the other links are. And what's really telling is that industry experience suggests a surprising number of long-term issues in underpinned basements. Sometimes, maybe even over half, can stem from problems with how this final sectional closing was done. It's like the hidden weak spot if it's not perfect.
Wow, okay. That's significant.
And think about Toronto homes. You mentioned areas like Parkdale, Wychwood, Riverdale. We see big swings in soil pressure, moisture levels change with the seasons.
Those wet springs, the freezing winters.
Right. All that puts stress on foundations. You simply cannot afford any weak points. So that final connection, it needs to be perfect. It ensures the whole foundation acts as one solid unit against all those forces. It's really the key to making the job last.
That failure statistic really drives it home. So knowing how vital it is, what does a good sectional closing look like? How do we at IcyReno make sure this critical final step is absolutely flawless?
Right. And that comes down to our process. We follow a very precise multi-step method because, honestly, the details here are everything. Small mistakes can cause big headaches later. It starts with really meticulous prep and custom formwork.
Yeah.
The area for the closing section gets cleaned out thoroughly, shaped perfectly, no guesswork. We need that new concrete to lock in tight against the sections that have already cured. In older Toronto homes, places like the Junction or Cabbagetown, foundations can be quirky.
Uneven lines, maybe. Different depths.
Exactly. So we take super precise measurements down to the millimeter sometimes to ensure it integrates perfectly. Then we build custom wooden forms right there, tailored to that exact space.
And not just standard sizes.
No way. These are bespoke for that specific gap because even a form that's slightly off can create a void or an uneven pressure point that can lead to settling or cracks years later.
Especially those tight downtown basements like Trinity Bellwoods or Little Portugal, right?
Yeah.
Space is tight. Precision is key.
Absolutely. Every inch counts.
So it's not just filling a gap. It's crafting a perfect piece. What comes after the prep and forming?
Then comes the strength element, internal reinforcement. This is crucial. Our team drills horizontally right into the sides of the existing concrete sections, the ones that have already hardened.
Okay, into the older concrete.
Into the older, cured sections on either side of the gap. And then we install heavy-duty steel rebar, you know, those steel rods.
Right, the reinforcing bars. Like a skeleton.
Exactly like a skeleton. This rebar physically connects the new pour to the existing sections. It literally knits the whole thing together, creating this strong, interconnected grid within the concrete.
So the whole basement foundation acts like one piece.
Precisely. Not just separate blocks sitting next to each other. This is vital, especially think about areas like the Scarborough Bluffs or Mimico, where you might have higher groundwater pressure pushing on the walls.
Yeah, that water pressure can be intense.
It really can. That internal rebar grid is what gives the foundation the muscle to resist that pressure, stops it from moving or cracking over time.
Okay, forms are perfect. Rebar is in place, tying everything together. Then it's time for the concrete itself.
Yep. And like you guessed, it's not just any concrete. Once the rebar is secure, forms double-checked, everything perfect, we pour a high-strength concrete mix.
High strength specifically.
Specifically engineered for this. And we don't just pour it in, we use vibrators during the pour.
Why vibrate it?
To eliminate any tiny air pockets, air bubbles, or weaknesses. Vibration makes sure the concrete is dense, solid, completely filling the form and surrounding the rebar tightly. Then, we carefully level it off for a smooth, seamless connection. The mix itself is designed to bond really well with the concrete next to it and to cure to its full design strength. No cutting corners here.
Makes sense. So it's poured, vibrated, leveled.
Yeah.
Then you just wait. The curing process.
That's the final and equally critical stage.
Yeah.
Controlled curing and finishing. And yeah, patience is key here. We never rush the cure. This is when the concrete undergoes its chemical reaction, hardens, and gains its full structural strength. It needs time.
Especially in Toronto's climate, right? Cold winters, damp basements.
Exactly. Temperature and humidity affect curing time. We need to ensure it reaches its full potential strength. Think about places like North York or Rosedale. Basements can be naturally cooler or damper. We account for that. Once it's fully cured, could be several days, depending. We carefully remove the wooden forms.
And then it's done.
Pretty much. If the situation calls for it, say if there's known moisture issues in the area, we'll apply additional waterproofing membranes specifically over this new section. Just an extra layer of protection against any future water trying to get in. It's about building in long-term durability.
That is incredibly detailed. So going through all that, why is this step, the sectional closing, so uniquely critical for Toronto homes?
Yeah.
What is it about our city?
Well, Toronto's got this unique mix of things going on. First, wildly different soil types across the GTA. Clay in one area, sandy loam in another, high water tables near the lake.
Right, it's not uniform at all.
Not at all. Then you add our huge stock of older homes, many built 50, 70, even over 100 years ago. Foundations back then weren't always built to today's standards, often shallower, maybe less robust.
And then our weather.
And then the climate. Big swings. Freezing winters where the ground expands with frost, then wet springs and summers where it gets saturated. That cycle puts enormous stress on foundations year after year.
Creates a perfect storm almost.
It really does. In areas like Bloor West Village, Corso Italia, Danforth Village, we often see homes start with small cracks. Seems minor. But if the underpinning, especially that sectional closing, isn't done right, those small cracks can become major structural problems down the road.
And let's talk about that. What are the consequences if that sectional closing isn't done perfectly? What does a homeowner actually face?
Okay, so a bad sectional closing essentially creates a built-in weak point. Doesn't matter how good the rest of the underpinning was.
It undermines the whole job.
Completely. This weak spot is the easiest place for water to seep in. So you get leaks, dampness, maybe mold issues later on. It's also where you might see uneven settling. Floors start to slope, you get new cracks appearing in the basement slab itself. And in worst cases, walls can actually start to bow inwards under the soil pressure because that continuous strength isn't there. That's a serious structural red flag.
And these problems don't show up right away.
Often not. That's the sneaky part. It might look fine when the job is finished, but years later, maybe 5, 10 years down the line, these issues surface, and fixing it then, it can cost tens of thousands. We've unfortunately seen situations where people did beautiful basement renovations,
Yeah.
only to have to tear out drywall, flooring, everything, because a faulty sectional closing from years prior started leaking or shifting, damaging the whole finished space. It's heartbreaking and totally preventable.
Wow. What a deep dive into, the hidden hero, maybe,
Yeah.
of basement underpinning. It's so clear now that the sectional closing isn't just some minor detail. It's absolutely critical for the long run, the health, the stability of your home, especially here in Toronto with all these factors we talked about.
It really is the step that ensures all the other work holds together and performs as one strong system.
And hopefully understanding this helps you, the homeowner.
Exactly. This knowledge gives you the power to understand what really goes into a foundation repair that lasts. I mean, your home is probably your biggest investment, right?
Yeah.
And the foundation, it's literally holding everything up. Protecting that investment starts right there, underground.
So here's something to think about as you go about your week. Now that you understand these really precise steps, especially the sectional closing, how does that change how you might look at a future renovation? Or even just how you observe your own home's foundation health day to day? Or you may be noticing little things now, small cracks, slight slopes, knowing what they could potentially mean down the line. Look, if you are seeing any signs that worry you, those growing cracks, maybe doors sticking, floors feeling uneven, or if you're thinking about a basement lowering project to get more usable space, we really encourage you to reach out. We're here to help. You can find us, IcyReno, at our locations in Etobicoke or Toronto. Or honestly, just give us a call. The consultation's free, no pressure. The number is 647-454-6670.
Yeah, give us a call. We can assess things properly and give you peace of mind.
Absolutely. That's it for this deep dive. Join us next time on Basement Integrity Podcast by IcyReno for more insights into protecting your most valuable asset. Stay safe, Toronto.